Hey, what's up, everybody? BDF44 coming at you with another video. All right, so it's 2 in the morning. I went to sleep like 4 in the afternoon, being ridiculous here. Now I'm wide awake, so I figured I'd come here and just respond. Not respond, I always use the word respond, but react to is more so what we're doing. To Joel Embiid essentially saying that he doesn't really know what he has to do to win MVP in terms of getting attention of the voters. And in my humble opinion, I think it's tough because you look at Joel Embiid, and I think he's earned the MVP this season. I think he could have been MVP last year. But I just think that when you're in a competition as tight as the one he's in, it's not just about the voters picking you. It really is about your competition and the overall body of work that all contenders for that trophy have put together in total. And I think for me, Joel Embiid probably is the MVP because he's had the longest stretch of successful, healthy basketball of the main candidates for MVP, in my opinion. Nikola Jokic has been phenomenal all season long, but he wasn't making MVP noise as soon as Joel was this season. Joel's name was being thrown out there early as an MVP candidate, and he's pretty much kept up his end of the bargain throughout the entire season, even in the situation now where you consider the fact that they have a massive piece in James Harden coming in, and they don't necessarily have their offense together. They don't have their defensive principles yet in place with him involved. And he's still putting up legendary numbers. You know, the case for Jokic is fantastic as well. Obviously, he's played MVP basketball all season long without Murray and Porter. And Campazzo hasn't been there for a good portion of the season. They've missed a lot of key pieces, and in the presence of that, they've had a certain level of stability that has come from having Mike Malone be his coach pretty much the entire time. Which is an important aspect of the situation because Jokic didn't have a whole lot of adjusting to do as it pertains to his style of play and what it is that they do. Even though the Murray's gone, obviously there's been adjustments made for other players to have to close, other players to have to score. But Jokic, in the grand scheme of things, his game doesn't change. It's the winning that ultimately is a testament to why he's going to be considered an MVP because he's kept that team above, let's say, sixth place all season long or something of that nature without those stars and by staying healthy himself. So it's just tough, bro. You know, you're in a situation where you're going to have to deal with a center for the rest of your career, man. And that center just happens to have hyper passing gift. And that's what runs into Joel Embiid. He doesn't have hyper passing gift. Can he pass? Of course. He make a pass. He's an excellent playmaker. He's an excellent basketball player. He's a gamer with 7 feet, at 7 feet, who could shoot and move like a guard. So to take away from Joel Embiid is ignorant. I would never. But what I'm telling you is Jokic does more in the stat sheet and on the plus minus because he controls more of what other people do with his passing gift. It just is what it is. When you can get assists and make others better, it's just simply more valuable on the basketball floor statistically. And that does translate. You know, it's just more valuable. I hate to say it, but putting the ball in the basket yourself versus getting the ball to somebody else and letting them do it, it really does make a difference. And if you do it enough times, you get enough assists, you're going to put yourself ahead of other people who don't get assists like that. You know, especially if you're 7 foot tall and can affect the floor in the way that Jokic can. And then you couple that with him having, you know, hyperactive scoring ability as well. He can put up 35, 40, 50 points if he wants to, shoot from three at a high percentage. There's really nothing Jokic can't do offensively. And that is unfortunate because there are some things Joel Embiid isn't going to be able to do statistically in competition of that. You know, and that's weird to say that because Joel Embiid affects ridiculous amounts of basketball, including the defensive side of the ball, for which I think he has an edge on Jokic. Even though Jokic is an underrated defender, I think the notion that Jokic is somebody who is soft and can't can't get stops is just, it's false. I mean, it's just false. If you watch him play, he's not Joel, he's not Anthony Davis, but to say he can't get stops or to help his team get stops is false. He does affect the floor defensively enough to make his passing assist numbers an edge that will wipe away a lot of what other athletes do out there from a statistical standpoint. It's just how that works. That's why I always used to get frustrated at my guy Kobe Bryant back in the day. Rest in peace to the great Kobe Bryant. I used to get frustrated because I'm like, bro, do you know how many MVPs he would have if he shifted his mindset sooner? Because he definitely did later on in his career, but he shifted his mindset sooner to equate how important the assist actually is statistically for him overall. Because a lot of times he forced shots he didn't have to force because of not only his mindset as a scorer and a killer, but also because he didn't trust his teammates in situations where I could argue just because he was so far ahead of them basketball wise, so far advanced in them, that he could argue it made more sense for him to take all the shots. But in the grand scheme of things, even though those guys were considered lesser players, it still would have benefited him much greater to use them in whatever capacity they were possibly able to give him so that he could up his statistics assist-wise, and then he would have been able to compete with the guys who were winning NBA MVPs every year. Steve Nash's, Tim Duncan's, and all those guys. If Kobe Bryant averaged 8 assists his entire career, he would have got MVPs over all those guys every time. Like, that's just how that works. He would have destroyed the MVP category, but because his efficiency was dropped by the fact that he took a number of shots that probably could have been passed up to give other guys better looks, and ultimately would have opened up the lanes for him and opened up a space for him, because guys wouldn't have been able to play on him as tough as they did. Guys wouldn't have been able to crowd 4 and 5 people onto him if they knew the pass was coming at all times. It had created easier looks. So I just, understand how much passing helps Jokic, how much passing helps Chris Paul, and all these players that have that ability. I look at like Giannis. If Giannis didn't have the ability to pass, he wouldn't have any MVPs, in my opinion. It really is that simple. If Kyrie Irving was a hyper passing player, he'd probably already have an MVP in his back pocket. Like, it's that simple. And that's the thing. If you are a passing player, if you're somebody who can score and pass, statistically, it'll help mask your deficiencies defensively, if you have any. Because it does overall raise your plus minus when you're constantly, taking good passes, making good passes, and ultimately getting other guys in position to score. Now, the flip side is if they don't score, it doesn't show. Can't tell you how many games I watched Kobe Bryant get roughly 12 assists and the team only make 3 of the freaking passes he give them. So that's a massive aspect of it too. But what you got to also take into consideration is great passers are going to pass you open. They're not going to have 3 assists because 5 or 6 of them 10 passes aren't going to be, you're not going to have much room to miss. You're going to be in such rhythm, or you're going to be getting that ball in such stride that you have to be incompetent to miss. So that's what Jokic does. That's what he does. And I don't think that's something Joel can learn, bro. I don't think it works that way. I don't think there's anything to learn for Joel. I think he sees all the passes he needs to make. I think he can make all the passes he sees. I think Jokic just creates passes that aren't there. That's what great players do. Steve Nash and Magic Johnson, LeBron James, Chris Paul, all these great passers, even the new guys like Ben Simmons, Josh Giddey, guys who can really, really pass. Yeah, they create these lanes for you. Lonzo Ball, Melo Ball, they create lanes. You don't have to worry too much about making the shot because they're going to give you what you need to make sure that you have the best opportunity to do so. So for Joel Embiid, I would just tell him just to kind of circle back. Bro, they don't necessarily hate you. In fact, they hate this if they're like me. Because I want to be able to give Joel Embiid all his MVPs because he would have won MVPs when other guys was winning MVPs. Do you understand what I'm saying? Some guys wouldn't have it if he were around, is what I'm saying. And I also know how his injury history is gone, and I don't know how his injury history is going to be going forward. So I would like for him to receive all his accolades right now when his body is in his prime and he's sharp as he can get. for obvious reasons, and I think the same for Jokic as well. So it's just tough, Joel. It's just tough, bro. You're in a spot where you're dealing with another center. It ain't even about the voters. Jokic made it very difficult on the voters, and I think it's important for athletes to understand that just because you are playing at an MVP level doesn't mean that the next guy it's going to be an easy decision to just wave off. If his numbers are crazy and he's putting up legendary stuff too, and he has players missing and stuff, yeah, you're going to be in competition with that guy. And then I tell a guy like Joel Embiid, you've done enough to earn the right to have this conversation. But I could look over at a guy like DeMar DeRozan and say he has even more of a gripe because he's getting less attention. He's played even better than he's getting the attention for. Or I look at a guy like Devin Booker who's getting attention right now. You know what I mean? Barely. That's to say he's been on the best team all season long, even though he's missed some time. He's been phenomenal when Chris Paul's been out. And then I want to say that Joel Embiid has been missing players all season too. You got to understand, obviously, the Ben Simmons situation has lasted duration of the entire season. So that needs to be taken into account as well when we're considering who Jokic has played without. It's not like Ben Simmons start the season or, they had James Harden in place to start the season. No. Joel Embiid has played with literally half of his star power absent for the entire season. So if that's not to be taken into account, then the voters really do hate the man because that is not a factor that should be overlooked at all. So, but all in all, man, it's tough. I think if I had a vote, I'd give it to Joel Embiid just because I felt like he's been great all year long. Not mentioning Giannis is crazy because Giannis has been great for 3 years straight. And I think if you give the MVP to Giannis, you certainly are in a position to feel good about giving it to somebody who deserves it for sure. So he's not the only candidate out there who's going to feel some gripe and way. Giannis coming off a championship and a finals MVP. You think he doesn't feel like he should be getting the first look at the MVP trophy? I'd say he believes he should have it. Just because he got it a couple times before doesn't necessarily mean he ain't deserving of it this year. And he's in firm competition with both of y'all too. So, I just say there's some things to consider if you're Joel Embiid. Feeling the way you feel is fine. But don't lose sight of the fact that what you feel is lying to you because, it's not a reflection of people's feelings for you. It's a reflection of what it is that's on the table for them in terms of the numbers. Your numbers and Joker's numbers. And looking at both of them, people have to make a decision. Y'all didn't make it easy on us. But to say what you're saying kind of removes some of what we would say is, and I don't know if I'm wording this correctly, but it's almost like you want to remove the fairness from the conversation by asking that they love you enough to give you the MVP when it's arguable that you have strong competition. I don't think that's the right way to go. You know what I mean? You look at two players who've played well enough to win MVP, and then you say, yeah, I'm gonna go with Joel Embiid because I love him. Like I don't really know how to equate that in terms of how you think they're supposed to come to that conclusion based on popularity or liking you or loving you. I don't. If I'm to take that literally, which most people are not, but I'm just saying, like, just for the sake of breaking down the words, nah, that's not how that works. And two, at the end of the day, Joel is also in a situation where he plays for Philly. And that does have something to do with it. He mentioned that. He said it's a different criteria for guys in Philly. I don't think that that's crazy. I don't think that that's crazy because we watched Allen Iverson go through a process where he only won one MVP, and we know he was more than an MVP for many, many seasons. So I can see where he thinks that's a trend. And so, that's also worth mentioning. I think all in all, the Philly fans and everybody over there, they have a reputation, for booing people. And I think that kind of carries over in some ways as people look on a paper and see names and see teams. I think that stuff probably plays a part in some small way, probably. So yeah, man, Joel is going to get himself an MVP trophy, I believe, in his career. you know, and he'll have to live with the truth just like the rest of these superstars over the years. You know, Magic had to deal with a Larry, you know what I mean? Kobe had to deal with Timmy, had to deal with KG, had to deal with Iverson. And like, there's no superstar that had the league to themselves, you know? And if it appeared that way, that wasn't the case. Dirk had to, was when he got MVP, he was dealing with Kobe, he was dealing with KG, he was dealing with Timmy. There's no MVP that didn't have very strong competition outside of Steph Curry that 1 year. And Shaq that 1 year, we only missed, I think it was one person who didn't vote for him. Other than that, everybody has strong competition. Everybody has to beat somebody else out. I remember 1 year Karl Malone beat out Michael Jordan. I think that was 96. And Karl Malone was more than worthy of winning the MVP, but I think most people thought it was Mike that year. You know, I watched Steve Nash get it over Timmy and Kobe a couple times. So I just don't. Is that a testament to say they didn't love those guys? Shaq only got it once. It's a testament to say Shaq didn't have no love from the voters. I'd imagine he feels that way, but I think that would kind of belittle the race he was in. It's in a tight race with real MVP candidates, man. The guys who are putting up legendary numbers every year. You don't get MVP trophies because you just played well enough to get it. You got to beat the other guys who played well enough to get it. And that, unfortunately, is left up to the opinions of voters, man. It just is what it is. Opinions. You know, it's just the lay of the land. If you don't like that, ain't nothing you can do about it. Nothing you can do about it. But I do think he'll get an MVP trophy at some point. I think he'll play himself into that positioning soon. Probably get it soon. Hopefully this year for himself, you know. But the reality is Jokic has come on strong. Booker's come on strong. DeRozan's been amazing. And those ain't the only names. You know, so you just got to be real about that. Giannis, got to be real. This ain't about just you. Everybody's on a position to feel like they ain't loved in that situation. Shoot, somebody got to get it. Now, I'm of the mindset that the co-MVP was always a solution. But you don't want to get out of the way too many times. It can dilute the entire process if you do. You know? So, and just to re-harp on the passing, look at James Harden and the MVPs he got. I think a lot of that had to do with his ability to pass the rock and get high assists on top of those scoring numbers. I don't think if those assists are absent, he gets any of that. So yeah, man, just I wouldn't suggest you start overpassing or anything, but understand that if you up your assists, it will make a difference. It'll make a difference. It will up your ability to compete with that guy who really dominates in not only the assist category, but can get the same boards as you, can get the same points as you. You really got to do crazy stuff on a defensive end to outclass his off assist category alone. So it's just tough, man. As long as he continues to do what it is that he does, Jokic is going to have an opportunity to win MVP every year. What I see right there is if these three players stay healthy, it's going to be hard for anybody to win MVP over them three. To be honest with you, you figure Booker and DeRozan, guys like that, guards are going to play like this. If they're going to be MVP candidates, they're going to play like Devin Booker. They're going to play like DeMar DeRozan. Like that's about as good as a guard gets, in my opinion, unless they want to tap into Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan territory. As to which, to be honest with you, it'd be difficult for them to win MVP over Jokic, looking at his numbers and efficiency. I'm going to be real with you. Jokic might have won an MVP over some of these MVPs that were greatest of all time, because that's the type of numbers he's putting up for real. So, I'm sorry, man. Don't feel bad, Joel. You ain't the only dude he would have beat for MVP. Trust you, me. He beaten a lot of these historic MVPs for MVP based on the numbers. So, it is what it is, man. It is what it is. He's worthy. You're dealing with a real one over there. My name's BDF44. I thank y'all for watching. I'm out.